right. Let's see here. How's it going, everybody? Hello, hello. What's up, Josh? Welcome. Hello. All right. We got all kinds of stuff to do tonight. So hopefully some people will show up. I think Milani's going to show up. I think. Hey, look, it's Pete. What's going on, Pete? Welcome. First live event, huh? So I have another student who's going to be here probably a little later. He's working tonight, but he's going to take a break, I think, and then he's going to ask for a shot critique. You know. Is the music too loud? Let me know, okay? Because I like to have background stuff playing, and I usually keep it in my headphones to myself, but I'm going to share tonight. So, hey, Milani, how is it going? Welcome to the live event. Let's see here. What are we doing? So I'm going to do probably a little bit of animation tonight. We'll see. I have a couple of shot critiques I'm going to do. I want to talk about some animation too that I came across that I thought was really relevant, And so, yeah, we're going to do some of that stuff. And then any questions you guys have as well. I want to hear what you guys have to say and what's on your mind as well too. So this is kind of like a Q&A where you guys are welcome to ask questions and then I'll answer questions. We've had some really good discussions this week about just industry stuff. And what's funny is that typically in my classes, we pretty much stick to clip analysis, shot demos, and then basic questions and answers, right? The typical stuff. But it's been an interesting block so far. We've been talking a lot about like industry stuff, like how to stay relevant once you get in the industry, how to get that first job, how to negotiate salaries, all the things that, not everyone is always sure about or knows about, right? And so, but it typically doesn't get even talked about very much, and so it's been a lot of fun. How's my audio? Am I coming in okay? I've been getting used to this new microphone for about a week or two now, and it's been a daily adjust this, adjust that, and just trying to get used to how this damn thing works. Okay, good. What's funny is I had a really annoying nagging buzz. I don't know, for almost 3 days now, and it would just come and go, and I was like, what is causing that buzz? And I was taking my desk apart and moving components, getting anything electrical away from like the XLR switcher or like the microphone, trying to figure out what was causing this this buzz. And then I'm not even kidding, not 5 minutes ago, maybe 10 minutes ago, I turned off one of my cameras and the yeah, go ahead. Yeah, that's cool. I would love that. But like not 10 minutes ago, I turned the camera off and the buzz went away. And then I realized that it was a camera because I've got a 2-camera setup, but now tonight it's going to be a 1-camera setup where I had the dummy battery in the other camera plugged into an outlet near my PC, and that's what's causing it. So I'm going to remove that later and put it somewhere else. But driving me nuts. God almighty. I mean, like 2 days, which makes sense because I put the camera up 2 days ago and I started playing with different, Stream Deck buttons to kind of be able to show a monitor, to show me. And then also I thought it'd be great to have another camera that I could set up where I could stand up, switch to that camera and like act stuff out, because a lot of times I'm doing reviews and, we're talking about shots and things like that. And I want to be able to stand up and act it out. And like this camera right here that I've got right now is not a very wide field of view. And so I think this is a 16 to 28 millimeter or something like that. So So I wanted to go ultra wide, you know, have another camera where I could stand up and literally like act out shots for people. So, and that was the whole idea. Hey, there's Harry. What's up, Harry? Welcome. So, hey, Harry, I don't know how much time you have. So I'm going to kind of jump onto your shot in a minute and just do a quick review on both your shots and just kind of talk a little bit about some of the things I see that you're doing, the good, the bad, the ugly, and kind of talk about what we could do to maybe plus it. But I also know that you're in good hands with Tal. So, you know, he's a fantastic animator. So I'm not even worried about you there. So yeah, cool. And then Josh, I think you mentioned something about a shot as well. So if you want to send it over, I can snag it anytime during this and we can take a look at it real quick. Cool. And then anybody else who wants to have their shots like that, we can absolutely do that. Okay. Cool. So I got to do some show and tell real quick. Actually, real quick, Harry, how much time do you have? Because are you on break or are you off? I want to make sure that I give you time. And then we can always do show and tell afterwards. I got some James Baxter stuff I want to kind of talk about. So, and one shot also. Cool. Right on, Josh. Oh, that reminds me, Harry, there's a shot I wanted to kind of coincide with what you're doing here on your cowboy shot and talk a little bit about you're on break. Okay, let's do it right now then. So I'm going to basically jump over and we'll take a look at your shot. And if you have any questions, just pop them in the chat real quick. Cool. All right, so let's do this. Let's go to here. All right. Let's see here. Let me grab this. Here we go. Cool. Okay, so let's look at this one real quick here. This is the one I'm most concerned about just in terms of the posing appeal. And I know it's something you're working on currently with Tal as well. So I think it's relevant to kind of go through this. And in case you have to leave, then we can always look at the other one later too. But so you mentioned that there was comments about the mechanics, right? That it's going in a good direction. And so I took a look at it. And yeah, I think there's some cool stuff here for sure. But I think that there's also some things we can really dig into mechanically speaking. And then also I wanted to talk about your second pose. So let's look at it real quick here and then we'll just go from there. So here we go.
All those who have betrayed me, and I will not rest until they suffer at my hand. All those who have betrayed me, and I will not rest until they suffer at my hand. All those who have betrayed me, and I will not rest until they suffer at my hand. Okay, cool. So this dialogue piece is almost like she's acting out what she's thinking, right? It's almost like an inner monologue, right? You know? And so it's interesting. And so I'm assuming you're going to do lip sync or is it going to be internal? I'm really curious because of that. Because I think that you could do either way, right? Like, for example, I know Tarantino would definitely do a shot where a character would literally act out loud their inner monologue, right? Like a Kill Bill scene or something like that, right? And so, okay, cool. So you're going to lip sync it. Okay, good. So, all those who have betrayed me.
So yeah, I think that I assume you're kind of in first pass spline here. I'm going to mute it for a moment here and just kind of go through it. So this first movement right here where we're pointing the gun, I think it's important to really think about like just the weight into that movement, right? And having to be kind of a quick shootout. And what I would say here is from a torso standpoint, especially from a rotation standpoint, I would really think about possibly even leading the action a little bit with the chest and then throwing the gun out and letting the chest almost recoil back and almost have the arm pull the body a little bit, right? And it can be subtle. It doesn't have to be like a giant thing, right? But you can think on those micro levels where you're thinking about how your leads and follows are happening, right? And getting the weight in that movement. And then on top of that, I would consider not bringing the shoulders up during this, but instead like reaching, like letting the shoulder drop on the left side, right? Ashley points out with the gun, right? And then if you want to bring in the right shoulder a little bit, that's cool, you know, but I I would not make it so visible. I would have it blend in nicely with the overall mechanic and just have it feel just kind of like, boom, right? It's like, wow. And I think it'll give her a certain sense of determination and almost like, stick-to-itiveness, right? She's like almost violent about it, right? And she's determined, right? In her actions, right? So I think that through this movement here, I would love to see just a small anticipation. Right now, you're just kind of leading out. So you're just kind of easing out into the action. And I would probably just give yourself a little bit of like a almost opposing force, or maybe even the body starts to push out, but then the gun comes back a little bit. And then like I said, the chest is going to lead the rotation anyway, like this way. And so maybe just start to push in and let the gun kind of drag back towards her and then like throw it out, And so then you get like this nice drag on the arm and then it leads almost in a way. I mean, the chest is going to lead, but then the gun's going to come down and then pull the chest and pull the mechanics over, right? Okay. Now, I think what Tal's talking about and what I'm going to mention here is that when you're doing these pose changes, if you look at the animation down here below the belt, right, below the pelvis area, it's pretty static. You're not getting a lot of drift. You're not getting a lot of that ambient motion of the weight pushing through the balls of the feet, right? So think about that for a moment where, remember, right, you're shifting weight, you're doing all these things, right, that cause a lot of force. And the core movement is supporting the action, right? And so you're going to get drift over the feet, and the feet are going to push down into the balls of the feet or the knife edge of the foot, right? Okay. So just keep that in mind, that you're going to want some translation of the body coming over to support that action, okay? And then you're going to want little bits of overlap on the pelvis. So I would consider, a little bit of rotation X in here, for example, or Z. Sorry about that. Rotation Z. Right? And just getting some of that action to kind of follow through and support the weight as she pushes the weight over that left foot, right? Okay. And then, like I said, thinking about the overlapping shapes there is going to help you move the weight in a way that's not going to just be a pose to pose action, but it's going to kind of follow through and then recoil back a little bit, right? Okay. And it will just give you better weight overall. And then, and then the other hand too, as she like does that, this other hand, right, is like, right, a little bit of push and overlap right there. You can follow through with the weight there as well. So take advantage of those appendages because they're connected to the core, right? But they're also, they're able to move freely, So I would say take advantage of that for sure from a mechanic standpoint. And then, I don't know, I'd love to hear from the room, but I think that if I was in one pose here, as she points the gun, I might want to change the second pose a little bit. I might not want to just keep the same pose in there for the second pose on that first action. I might want to consider myself a little bit different, right? So maybe this first pose is like maybe elbow down against the rib cage here and then out, right? For example. And so maybe it's like more like this kind of thing, And so maybe you have the gun more here, for example, maybe. You know what I mean? And just going for like something a little bit tighter into the rib cage here. And then maybe as she throws the gun out, then it kind of comes out a little bit and kind of up into this pose here, So not a drastic major change, but it's like something to kind of break it up a little bit, right? Yeah. Just like Pete just said, breaking up the twinning, exactly. So it's something I would consider, And to me, honestly, too, it becomes a point of polish as well, where it gives me something to do later, where I can start thinking about that little bit of overlap into that pose, or whether I'm like here and then go into it down here, or start down here and come up into that, whatever, right? Okay. You got a 50-50 chance at making it great, right? So, all right, cool. Let's see here. Yeah, now, anytime you're going to do, contrappasto, right? Just getting those, like, differences. So, like, pushing the pelvis up here, dropping the shoulders here. You'll get, a nice line. And you've got that started in there. So, it's kind of there. But I want to see you just, like, organically move into it and through it, right? Okay, cool. Good suggestions, guys. I love it. So I think in regard to now, she's here. Now she's like scanning, right? She's like, you know, who's a threat, right? And she's going to like point the gun for the second person, right? I think it's important to make sure that when you're doing that, when you're like doing those eye darts, that even in blocking, if I'm not really splining through quite yet, I want to demonstrate little bits of integration in the face. So I'm not just doing isolated movements. And so I probably want a little bit of brow movement on those micro eye darts, just to get like a little shift in or even a little push in the expression. And just think about how you can maybe get on one of the eye darts, you push the expression, maybe get a little bit more sneer, push the cheek up a little bit, just little things to kind of break it up again, right? And that way, as you go through and spline and polish, you can start thinking about all those little micro movements you want to spline through. And that way you're not just a frozen face with an eye dart with maybe a brow change here and there, right? Okay. Cool. And then like right here, you're doing an expression change on the cheeks and the brows, but nothing else is changing right there, right? And so what I would consider doing is I would consider, you could consider this an anticipation in the face that leads into a movement. Sometimes I'll put a blink right there to kind of help usher in the expression change, which isn't a bad idea. You could try it, you know. But I think it's not a bad idea to, if nothing else, at least as you're going to do that, push the brow through and maybe start to change the mouth a little bit. So I would, in other words, well, let me put it this way. Let's put it this way. So you know when we block the body, right? We keyframe the body and we move every bit of it, right? If we're going to do a pose change, we're going to do a pose change. We're going to commit to the core movement of the pose change, right? And then we're going to do all of our secondary, right? So I would say same thing here too. If you're going to change the expression on the face, like integrate all of it as much as you can, right? Like a little bit of push on the mouth, a little bit of cheek, or relaxing, whatever you're going to do to kind of open the face up or like compress the face, okay? So remember, like think of it as a mask, right? You've got the eye area here, right? And then you've got everything down here on the bottom, and then we've got everything on top up here, right? So it's like brows up here, eyes through here, nose in the middle, and then like the mouth area, right? Cheeks. And just think about how you can incorporate all those areas into it. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's true. I mean, like in terms of, I think we can get into a lot of expression stuff as well. And I would say overall, I'd be careful on dropping the lids out like this and just leaving them basically just kind of empty with no cheek support right there. And I would think about, from a asymmetry standpoint and also the angle of the head here, I would probably just tweak the brows a little bit here. Most of the time, it depends on the character. Most of the time, we want to be careful about where we put the brows in relationship to the upper lids, right? Okay. And what I would try to do with her, and I think Milani's kind of touching on this a little bit too, is just like checking the brow line, the line of action. Yeah, I just think in general, think about how there's this line here, if nothing else, on the face, and you've got a brow kind of pushing hard into this line, and this one's kind of over here. And so I would think about balance in the face, even though we like asymmetry in the expression, right? Just check the balance of where you're pushing those things. We probably wouldn't push one side in and leave this out, right? They're usually going to push in together or open up together, right? Okay. Hey, Ben, welcome to class, man. Welcome to the live event. So that's what I would think about. I would just think about how you're going to integrate those things, right? And just kind of keep them, balanced. And I think we'll talk more about facial stuff too. I probably would want to prepare for that and really dig into it more, there's a lot to talk about there, but yeah, it's pretty cool. And again, I would just be careful on pushing this side in and pushing this side over, and just thinking about how you can balance the expression out across that center line, even though you're 3/4 to camera, right? Okay. And then we could probably, let's see here. Yeah, I think we're okay there. Now, one thing I want to say too is be careful about losing the pupils into the corners of the eyes, right? And so this is one of those things, you guys, where a lot of times what I'll do is you'll have that mover, right? That eyeball mover that's like out there in space. And it's like usually like one mover, there's like a second one here and a second one there. And what I'll do is I'll take this main mover and I'll use it as a posing tool to like pose my eyes on every single pose in the shot. And then I'll use these other ones out here, these tertiary eyeball controls, and I'll tweak each individual eye on every pose. And so for every eye pose I make, I'm going to have a keyframe on all three of these, you know? So I would really consider going through and making sure that both eyes look like they're looking at the same thing, right? And like watching your conversion point. Because just because you move the thing over here, right? This one's looking kind of here, this one's looking kind of here, right? And so just I would go through and tweak them, because at some point you're going to move that main control over and it's going to push one of the eyes too far, you know? Cool. All right, makes sense. Right on. All right, cool. Let's move on real quick here. Let's take, I don't know how much time you have. I know your time is limited, so. Okay, now right here, you start to like commit to the pose change, right? And then you come over here and you point the gun. Okay. Now again, you're doing a lot of rotation up on top, up here, right? This way, and this is kind of static again. So I would again lean into it, let the body commit to that movement, and really commit to that. And I would do this almost the same thing I talked about in the first one. Whereas when you commit to the second one, again, like lean into it, right? And then like pop the gun down. Okay. Now I was thinking, you're taking the body all the way here, and I don't think you need to. Like there's something nice about going about that far. I keep going to this frame right here at 56, and I wonder if you just took the body that far and let it just overshoot that and kind of settle back into this pose. I think that's enough, because there's something nice about this head angle. I think you should bring it up a little bit because the hat is kind of, you know, becoming a problem on the eyes. But other than that, I kind of like the idea of like her almost like looking down, you know, through the brim of her hat and not taking the body so far over to the left, you know. I just don't think she needs to go that far. I think she can just commit from here, boom, and go about that far, you know. But again, like commit the core to it. Let the weight push into the balls of that right foot and then kind of push back, you know. Okay. Cool. One of the hardest things I think for students to do, at least early on, is like knowing what to do with all the secondary, how to get the texture into it, right? And you know, there's a few things you could do. You don't want to get too formulaic. So you want to bring experience into it, but you also want to problem solve it almost not on the fly, but at least on a shot by shot basis, right? And so I think when it comes to things like this, where she's going to commit to like pointing the gun at this person, you know, we've already talked about getting the weight into it. So you get that kind of like, right, that weight behind it, right? And then from there, you know, you can do little things like just dragging the head into it, you know, but then also once she gets there, right, then she could go into a small, like a small pose change on the head, but push the expression, like go for it, do it, right? You could get into some kind of secondary where you're thinking about either she's thinking something or she's just committing to the audio, right? Because I know there's obviously audio here too. So we want to consider what the audio is saying too, because the audio is going to play a big part in how we choose where the inflections are going to hit, like pose changes, accents in the head, things like that, right? It's really important, right? So it feels like the screen right hand should come up a little bit too, unless she's aiming at both, at least a little with the forward movement. Yeah. So I think she is aiming at both. So she's keeping one person on guard. But yeah, I mean, absolutely. There's an opportunity there to absolutely let the body, like I said, commit to that right hand point. And then this left hand's going to be affected to a degree, right? And it doesn't have to be crazy, but there's an opportunity for a little bit of drag and overshoot, overlap there, whatever you want to call it, right? Let's see here. Yeah. Cool. All right. Awesome. Hang on a second. I just realized, is my logo over my face in the stream? Are you guys seeing that? Or is it just me? Because in OBS it's not there, but in YouTube I think it's there. That's funny. It's not? Okay. All right, well, I'm going to move it in. I'm going to move myself here. Hang on a second. Hey, man, it's like all, ironing out all the wrinkles, just getting just a bit. Yeah. All right, cool. We don't want that. Let's see here. All right. Let's do, what are we on? Capture. Just gonna move myself up a little bit. There. That should be a little better. That's funny. All right. Maybe, yeah, that's good. All right, cool. You guys got to tell me, like, hey, man, you got problems over here. I need an assistant. Not you guys, of course. All right, cool. I'll have to fix that later. All right, so yeah, so I think overall, again, I think it's good that you're thinking about those fence posts, right, Harry? You're thinking about putting those poses in, like building your structure, building your foundations, right? And then from there, it's like starting to think about all the things you can add on to it to take advantage of opportunities, right? To just really go for all the secondary, right? Like really, really thinking through the mechanics, right? And like I've mentioned before to some of you, one of my favorite things to do is when I'm blocking my shots, especially the last few years, I've really gotten into just breaking the mechanics down and blocking, so that when I'm doing a pose shift, I'm already thinking about how the weight is shifting through that arc on that breakdown and where the pelvis is at in relationship to the core movement and the weight over each foot and how it's going to rotate or push through, and then how the upper body is going to react to that, right? And so I really make an effort to create breakdowns in my blocking nowadays that really emphasizes, again, interesting ways to get from pose to pose in terms of arcs, secondary, drag, all those things, but also trying to be accurate enough on the mechanics so that when I go to spline it, I'm not trying to find it and like build it in, but it's kind of there, And then hopefully if I've done my job well, then I can just go through and really just, adjust my spacing, right? Maybe do small timing adjustments here and there, but hopefully I'm doing a spacing game at that point, hopefully, so yeah, cool. Now there's a shot I wanted to show you that I thought of immediately when I saw this gun kind of point, and it's from the movie Onward, and I thought it was relevant because it really gets into weight shifts right here. And so this is from Farley, which is Ian's brother in the movie. And if you haven't seen the movie, hopefully this is not a spoiler. But what I want you to look at is when Farley punches his brother here, like right here, he kind of punches him off. I'm going to turn off the volume for a second. And he kind of wrestles with him here. And Farley's back here in the jean jacket, and then Ian's in the plaid. So he kind of punches him off like, yeah, you can do it. And then right here, there's like this nice shift back screen left where Farley comes up over the top and puts his weight into his right foot and picks up his left foot and then steps and then drops his arms here. Well, actually, first of all, I'm curious, can you guys see this stuff playing real time, or is it really chunky? I really don't know. I hope it's playing back And the reason why I ask is because, I'm sure Pete, that when you're streaming, there's like a 10-second delay on everything. And so if I seem delayed to you guys, it's because there's a massive delay. Yeah, let me play real time. Here we go.
We'll just have to do the spell again.
You mean you have to? A person can only do magic if they have the gift. And my little brother has the magic gift.
But I couldn't even finish the spell.
Well, you're going to have plenty of time to practice, because we have to find another Phoenix gem.
Nice. Okay, good. Okay, good. Right on. And the system's good too? You can hear the audio pretty good? Seems like it's fine. All right, cool. So Harry's here, I hope. I hope Harry's still here. Otherwise, he can watch it back later. But I just love this moment from just from an ambient standpoint on a weight shift. And there's a couple of really cool things happening here, where when Farley steps back, he drops his arms through the top of this shift and then kind of just settles his weight. There's not a big shift back screen right here, And so he just kind of drifts over screen right, and you see him kind of bring his arms together, and you see his chest compress right there. And then he starts to think about what he's looking for, right? And so there's like this nice kind of determination on the look left. And then the hands just support the mental state of like, okay, what am I looking for kind of thing, right? He does a small shift back to the right here, and then back left again. And now he's going to arc through his head turn back. It's going to lead the action. And then right there, he says something. I forgot what he says.
Well, you're going to have plenty of...
Yeah, plenty. He says plenty. So on plenty, he just drops the hands into that small gesture. And what's really cool about that is it's not just poses and then poses and poses, right? There's a lot of overlapping shapes in there. And then as he comes back over, he's like, you have plenty of time, right? And so I like the fact that he says plenty right there and drops the hands in that small gesture there. And then that hand gesture going down ushers in that pickup of the left foot and steps out across and then reaches. And then the body basically finishes its movements, and then there's somewhat of an isolated kind of push into the rotations of the upper body as he brings the stick back over, or the staff. So it's nice because it's a nice polished piece of work, and it's really just a body mechanics, nothing right there. It's just a weight shift. But those are the kinds of things that I really admire when I see animators putting the time and effort into like the tertiary stuff, the stuff that's in the background, or the stuff that's not a major acting beat, right? So here, we'll watch it one more time and then we'll move on from this clip. It's really great though.
Well, we'll just have to do the spell again.
You mean you have to? A person can only do magic if they have the gift. And my little brother has the magic gift.
But I couldn't even finish the spell.
Well, you're going to have plenty of time to practice, because we have to find another Phoenix gem.
Yeah, how's that for powerful expression, right? So great. Super clear. That's one of the things that's really worth, I think, mentioning, and really worth studying in regard to feature film animation especially, is because of the continuity and because of the filmmaking. When it comes to animation, there's no fat in those shots, right? Everything's very clean and very precise, and it just leads you through the action to the next action, right? And Pixar is really good at continuity. They are really good about building really good flow through their sequences. All right, cool. I think Harry had to go, but we'll finish up here. So I just think that for the most part here, it's kind of pose to pose still. And I would just say, more secondary, more core movement overall. Let the parts of the body break up. Of course, still supporting the poses, right? But just having that organic movement in there is really important, To me, it's like the big difference between maybe budget TV animation, which can still be very good, right? It can still be very appealing, really well done. But a lot of times TV animation is going to be more of what I would call like economic animation, which is going to be less time and money to spend on polish and secondary, right? And so you really got to focus on clean posing, telling the story very cleanly through the shots, things like that, right? And then getting maybe one good breakdown in there to just get that arc in there, to get that nice drag in there, but not a lot of time to get everything else in there, unfortunately. So a little more economic. But I think that when it comes to like what we just looked at with Onward, you know, just really pushing into just weight, you know, overlapping shapes, leads and follows, all those things. Cool. And then like right here, you've got a shift back to the right, but the eyes don't shift over until probably 3 frames after the movement's done. And I would say it's okay for the body to go ahead of the eyes, but then the eyes have to blink over at some point before the action finishes, in my opinion. So I wouldn't go this far as letting the whole pose change over and then moving the eyes. I would definitely let the body lead the action in this case, and then maybe for only 2, maybe 3 frames. And then I would probably put a blink in there. So I probably would move the eyes over like 1 frame, maybe a small ease out in 1 frame, and then a blink. And then I would open the eyes and they'd be already over there, you know? Okay. And I would definitely push into an expression there, like a more pushed expression. And so I think you have a lot of room to play with the mouth here. And obviously I know there's no lip syncing yet, so that's going to be a big thing to consider as well. But, you know, as you go through and you block in your shapes, I'm sure we'll talk more about it as well. And of course, Tal, being your instructor, he's going to probably have a lot to say, and he's going to weigh in heavily on it. So yeah. So trust Tal. He's a monster animator. He's very good. So, and then this little push right here, this little push tells me there's intent behind what she's doing, right? This is very specifically on purpose on that little push in and almost like down over the rail. So I would say commit to that much more. It's a little subtle, but you don't have to go that subtle. I would say go much bigger with it, you know, like really commit to that thing. So yeah, so maybe a little more anticipation, because right now it's like very small right there. And I would just say like, definitely like, no, what are you doing? Kind of thing, right? I would like really lean into it, like, get back over there kind of thing, right? Okay, cool. All right, well, I think we'll stop right there on that one. And then I'll email you privately with the other one, just so we can kind of keep going. Cool. But great stuff. Keep going, Harry. Right on. Cool. Josh, how are we looking, man? How are we looking? Has everyone seen Onward here in the chat? I'm curious if everyone here has seen that movie. There's just some great moments that are just so much fun, you know. Like let's see, for example, there's just like, let's see if this is it right here. Yeah, I just love this kind of stuff right here, where Farley's just coming down the road to go meet his brother because it's his birthday, and he's in rare form, right? He's like ready to celebrate. And just look at the commitment. Look at the commitment to the physical action here as he's just like screaming down the road in a school zone when the kids are present. You don't do that, right? So, oh yeah. I have that right here, actually. We were looking at that on Monday.
Is that the birthday boy I see? Behold, your chariot awaits.
Do you?
So great, man. Yeah, but again, I love the commitment to just the full body out of the window, right? And then just like hands down on the windowsill. It's really great. So fantastic, you know. But yeah, it's funny you mentioned that shot too on the bridge, because we were talking about that moment where let's see here. Which one is it? I think it's this one right here. Yeah. So he basically steps on, now I assume you're talking about this with a rope. I assume, I could be wrong actually. You might talk about a different rope scene, but I hope you're talking about this one right here. But yeah, there's just this moment where he's doing the trust bridge or whatever, right? And then he's going to step off the edge and he doesn't trust it. And so of course he falls, and then his brother saves him. But what I love is, like we were talking about this Monday, where because of the action, because of the flow of the sequence, because of the idea that you simplify actions for the sake of not overthinking mechanics and staying in the area of what I call entertainment versus rotoscoping, right? this moment right here is great because Farley's just like pulling him up, right? And then when he gets Ian to the top, he like picks him up and like gingerly walks him backwards and then like sets him down. And then Ian's like tuk, 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 like a piece of wood because he's just like, he's petrified. He's terrified, right? And so it's a nice little descriptor right there.
I'm dead. All my life is over.
I gotcha. Okay, you fell. Was that so bad?
Yes.
Are you still alive?
Yes.
Okay, so now you know the worst that can happen, so there's nothing to be scared of, right?
Isn't it amazing too how, like I always talk to my students about how when you have a piece of really good audio like this with a good voice actor and a director who's picked the best parts of the recording process, right, and put together the shot for you, a lot of times that audio can almost give you a roadmap to where your acting is going to take you, right? Because you can hear like, you know, those moments where things kind of flow along and then they like hit something hard, right? And you can kind of hear those differences in the inflection, and they almost put a picture in your head of what the acting is going to do. And so you can start to really build those moments, I think, because of that. It's really great. And so like watching Farley here he's the most fun, if you ask me, because he's just such an animated character. And I love how he basically reverses his body here to pick up Ian. So we got a reversal here. We got a big C shape here, squash pose. We stretch into this like reversal here. So we got a big C shape backwards, right? And then he's going to come down forward again, put down Ian. He wobbles. He steps back into this nice reversal, right? And then from here, he just goes forward, boop, right? And then back up. And he's just kind of like now sinking into the acting, right? And the audio just makes a lot of sense right here on why these poses are being chosen, right? You know, so now you know, kind of thing, you know. So it's really great, really nice. It's a nice moment. There's some really great stuff in this movie, you know. Yeah, really fun. Josh, did you say you sent over your shot? Okay, cool. You did. Right on. Let's see here. Right on. Oh, I see a TIE fighter. All right, let's take a look at this. Let's see what Josh is up to here. Cool. All right. Do you want to give a caveat through chat, or do you want to just let it rip? It's very rough. Okay, there's your caveat. All right, well, let's take a look at it, and then you can feel free to just like pop in there with thoughts, comments, and then we'll go from there. Cool. Sparkling planets, Star Destroyers. Can never go wrong with this good Star Destroyer, I'm telling you. Cool. Yeah, I only see like one little thing that I would consider, and that's there's kind of a sudden acceleration on the three ships as they start to do their turn, and I just don't quite buy it yet. I think it's close. It's like right there. You see it? So I just feel like because they all move together and they're just kind of all coming through that turn. I kind of expect to have that small moment on that transition between foreshortened to camera and then going 3/4 profile away, right? And so I would think about that a little bit on watching that acceleration right there. Yeah. But otherwise, I think, you know, it's pretty good. How are you doing all three ships constrained moving together, or are you actually doing one at a time? I'm curious. They all just constrained, grouped? Yeah. Yeah. It's not terrible. I would just make that acceleration a little bit more gradual if you could, you know. So otherwise, it's not too bad. I was always that one kid, and maybe you guys can all relate to this too, but whenever I would see a Star Wars movie or something, I was the one person that was like, hey, can we leave the story for a moment, because I want to see a walking tour of the Star Destroyer. You know, I want to have a walking tour of the Death Star, right? What's behind that corridor right there? You know, because these things are so massive, you know. And I was that way with Star Trek in the 70s and 80s. Well, not 70s. I think I was like 1 year old. But in the 80s, when Star Trek would be on like after school, you know, like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, right? And so I'm showing my age right now. But I always would see the Enterprise, like this massive, massive ship. And we only got to see the bridge and maybe the, you know, 1 or 2 rooms here and there, the engine room partially, right? And I always wanted to see, like, you know, the rest of it, because in my mind I was like, yeah, it's a real place. In my mind, you know, it's like, what is in there, you know? So anyway, let's see here. So you're doing one at a time. Oh, Josh, what's wrong with you, man? Come on, you know better than that. That's funny. Now I think you could do it with an offset for sure, you know. Oh, here we go. Robbie. Pete's saying the same thing basically, you know. Dark Shadows, there you go. Nice. But yeah, I think like what Pete's saying here, I would do the same thing. I would probably just create a bunch of locators, do a master parent through the middle ship, and then have the other ones have an offset. So you could, like, you know, kind of jockey them if you wanted to, you know. And if you want help setting that up, I can help you, you know. But I think, you know, you're decent with constraints, right? So I'm curious what you're doing in the long run. I'm curious what you're going to do with this in terms of, I'm assuming this is a lead into something else where you're going to have character stuff. There you go. What's up, Moro? How you doing? Good to have you. Yeah, it's not bad. That's not a bad idea to kind of play with some camera, you know, some lenses, you know, see if you can get that thing looking like just gigantic. It's a good note, I think, for sure, you know. So, but yeah, I don't know. I would just consider playing with that a little bit, you know. It's cool. And also too, it's like, if you think about relative space too, right? Like how far away that Star Destroyer really is. You could probably even slow it down a little bit more even, but I know you want to get that thing in frame, right? And so I get it, you know. So yeah. Okay, cool. Nice, Morrow. Welcome. Good to have you. If you have any questions, let me know, you know. It's good to see everybody. So yeah, that's pretty awesome, man. Looking forward to seeing what you're going to do next. So I assume we're going to kind of punch into one of the ships and we're going to see, you know, some you know, some antagonist. Yeah, it's cool, huh, Milani? Very cool. Right on. Well, looking forward to seeing more of this for sure. Cool. Anything else? Let me get some coffee here. Hang on. In fact, Josh, check it out, man. You probably can't see it. It's probably blurry, but it's my Tim Hortons mug. It's my favorite one. Yeah, right, Ben? Ben's right. Josh was like, just so you know, it's really rough. You know, don't read too much into it. You know, I'm sorry. Yeah. Cool. Okay. Yeah, I mean, the constraints are pretty simple for the most part, right? Like the way I would do it is I'd have like my middle ship here, right? And then let's say we have like a TIE fighter here, for example, right? Typically all I'll do is I'll just basically, you know, put a couple locators on, well, here, let's do this. I'll do like, some people group locators. I like to have a tangible locator there. So I just do two, typically, you know. I just typically do the one, oh, I thought I changed my color. Come on. I want white for this demonstration. So we got locator 1, locator 2. Actually, I should probably do green, right? Because locators are green. And I'll just typically do this way. So I'll middle mouse click and drag the bottom locator to the top locator to parent them. And now they're in a hierarchy, right? Okay. So you basically just have a parent-child relationship, right? And then what I'll do is I'll make the parent the locator, so I'll constrain the TIE fighter to that top locator, right? And then now that locator and this offset both drive the TIE fighter, right? And then I'll select my ship, and then I'll select my offset locator, right? And then I'll parent constrain those with an offset or with a maintain offset. And that's it, you're done. And now you'll move this big ship and the TIE fighters will go with it, but then you'll have these offset locators down here to move the TIE fighters freely, you know. And then of course you'll have a constraint switch to turn off if you want to, and make them completely separate, you know. So yeah. And then yeah, Pete, just so you know, like Pete's a streamer. Pete is he's in the game. Pete's like knee deep right now, or like I should say probably neck deep in Blender too, right? Right, Pete? So Pete's getting around, man. Pete's checking out Blender, he's in Maya, he's doing all kinds of things, right? And so yeah. All right, cool. But if that's not clear, let me know, or you know, hit up Pete or something, you know. But I'm a constraint junkie. I love to do constraints. So I'm that weirdo that will do like a constraint setup, and then when I'm done with part of it, I'll bake it out, delete the constraints, make a new constraint with a new, you know, pivot point, and then animate from that point on, and then get done with that part, bake it out, delete the constraints, make a new one, you know, just because it's fun. Why else, right? Cool. Yeah, man. Yeah, I've been trying to get into Pete's streams for a while. I've only made it to one so far, and for like what, all of 15 minutes, I think. I was in a parking lot, and so I was just like, I'm gonna check out what Pete's doing. Maybe he'll be online, and he was. And so yeah, I think at the time you were doing something in Blender. You're doing some kind of shot setup, I think, or something. So yeah, very cool. Oh yeah, got a new Stormtrooper. Cool, man. Damn, 14 locators. Okay. That's not too bad. I mean, is that 7 locators with offsets, or is that 14 separate? Well, it's 4 constraints, right? So, you know, but that's fun though. Sounds like fun to me, you know. All right, cool. Let's see here. So last time I was in here, I was kind of going through, oh, you know, before I get into this too, I just got to show you guys something really, really awesome. And oh yeah, I know Nicole really well. I worked with Nicole at Sony years ago. So yeah, that's awesome. Nicole's awesome. She likes dogs. She's a dog person. Let's see here. One more thing before we get into Maya, if we even have time. I'm not going to stress about it. I was going to kind of dilly-dally around tonight, but let's see here. Yeah, here we go. So I worked with James Baxter during the Croods movie back in like 2012 to 2013, something like that. And I've always been a fan of James because, one, he's the most humble animator, you know, at his level. I mean, he's just such a nice guy and super talented, right? Just super, super awesome. And he's been kind of popular, at least on my stream lately on YouTube, showing up a lot of his work, right? And I don't know if you all know this, but James has done work for like, you know, Steven Universe and done some really, really fun stuff, right? And so this shot came up on my feed, and I'd seen this show before, but I'd never knew it was James Baxter that did this. And so I just had to like share this because I think it's worth talking about. Like, for one, James, his drawing style is so clean, and his use of timing and posing is so interesting, right? And but what's really remarkable about James is his ability to animate 2D characters that almost look 3D because they're so damn smooth, you know. So let's watch this sequence real quick here, and then I've got a comparison that somebody put up on YouTube I thought was really awesome, because they put a side by side of the pencil test, or the pencil cleaned up version, and then the rendered version. So this is really pretty awesome. Here we go. Dude, how super awesome is that? I just love the consideration of Wade here. She kind of like lets go. And he kind of like smiles at himself. Learns to love himself, right? But like just really solid drawing. And then this is really cool too, because James has demonstrated this quite a few times that I've actually noticed where I said, oh, that's a clever trick he just used to stage something, right? And it is really impressive. But his vehicles he uses for like this kind of thing here to kind of wrap himself around here and pull away from camera to like bring him around so we can see his reaction is really cool, right? And then you like, look at the anticipation, right? Anticipation into the regrab and then starts to like come around. Nice use of physics here. And I just love the stuff here too, because like the way he uses the undulation moment, like the movement of the bodies, right, to kind of come up and around. Big giant push through the bottom arc. Like look at the lines of action and the use of the feet to just convey the weight coming down through there and then come back up. Really nice stuff. So cool. And there's a part of me that really seriously doubts he shot reference for this. He probably went for it, you know. I'm not really sure about James's process for planning, to be honest. I'm not sure. Because I shot reference with him one time, and it was for one of my shots. And so I don't know if he would do it for his shots, you know. But yeah, I just love how he's really good about breaking up actions and not getting monotonous in the timing, right? There's always something kind of going on to kind of wobble this, and like it starts to like kind of offset a little bit here and kind of push right, then back left right there. Comes around, and he actually has him dip towards camera right here. Whereas the previous two were going right, left, towards us, and then it comes back around and then settles back on right. And then like just kind of finishes it. Really super awesome. So here's the side by side. You can kind of get an idea of what it looks like rendered out. It's pretty sweet. So awesome. Yeah, and part of the reason why this went up as a comparison is because this person on YouTube thought that the animation of the big character coming around was 3D. And then when he saw the pencil test, he was like, oh man, it's like drawn. Like he drew that, you know? And it's like, yeah, that's James. James, the same guy who drew, you know, Belle and Beast dancing in 3D, in a 3D environment. So pretty awesome. Very cool. Anyway, I just had to share that with you because I thought that there was, again, just such a cleanliness to the drawing style, you know, and just fluid, so fluid on the movements, you know. But then in contrast to that, here, I'll show one more. We'll do one more. But here's James doing the Moses block out from Prince of Egypt. And, you know, there's no audio here. It's like you're just watching us as a viewer. We're watching almost voyeuristically what is happening, right? So there's music playing and we're not actually seeing what they're saying, but you know he's describing what he just went through with the burning bush and everything, you know. And so here he is explaining to his wife. Like, look at the energy, right? The energy is so telling. And he's just like, he just can't contain it. He's so excited. Like, what a fun pantomime shot, right? Very cool. There's something so refreshing about seeing really rough pencil animation, right? It's just so alive and rough and just gritty, you know? Like I'm that guy who wants to see all the Disney movies in pencil form, not rendered and finished, you know? So it's really cool. Yep. Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm sure. Absolutely. You know, of course, you've got tools, right? You've got, you know, you can flip your drawings and you've got hopefully a light table, but yeah, the same way. Have I seen Primal? I don't think I've seen Primal. No. Can you afford me like a link or something? I'd love to see anything you guys got that's just, just awesome inspiration. So yeah, thank you. That'd be awesome. Primal. Now that I think about it, I think I've heard of it. Primal. If I say it enough, I'll Primal. Adult Swim. Okay, no, I don't think I've seen it. I don't think I've seen it. Cool. Yeah, I have several Discords actually. So I'm gonna start one actually for Real Monster. So it's funny you say that because I am. Yeah. Because I've come to the realization, and I think I knew it in my heart of hearts, that the community app that I have for this course is not enough. It's not broad enough for community, you know? Yeah. That's what I mean for class. Yeah. And so I'm going to make a Discord for sure for everyone, and we can have a place to meet throughout the day and like just drop stuff off, leave stuff. Cause I want to get more involved too. Like I want to hear from you guys. I want to hear from you guys whenever something comes up, or maybe you have something inspirational to show, right? Or maybe you just need help on something, then you want to get a hold of me quicker than through email. So I want to have that on my desktop, just kind of open all the time. So yeah, for sure. And then Pete, you were talking about at one point how you had this idea for the area outside of the course being almost a community area where people could have like almost like a portal entryway into the course, but then there's like a meeting area where it's like a lobby, right? And what's funny is that that's actually possible through another person. So I'm going to be talking to that person, you know, and I'm going to see how much it's going to cost to do it. But yeah, I found out that you can alter that whole thing and you can make it a community entryway, like a portal. So yeah. So I'm going to be looking into that for sure, because I think that's really cool. I thought it was a really, really great idea. And then what's funny, Pete, is that you mentioned that, and then not even 2 weeks later on the Facebook group for the website that I use, they were talking about that. And someone was like, here you go. And they dropped an example. And I was like, holy crap. It's like Pete was here, you know, Pete was like channeling that, you know, so it was really funny, you know, but anyway. But yeah, I agree. I totally think we need some kind of way to have better connection, because it just feels isolated right now. It feels too quiet. It feels like there's not a community feel, and that's not what I want for sure. So yeah. So good suggestion. Cool. So can I answer any questions about anything? Yeah, man. Yeah, for sure, Ben. Yeah. And I'll make sure like you and Josh are in there as well. Like, you know, I want to make sure you guys have like, you know, everyone has a place to come chat and ask questions, things like that. So, oh, one more thing too. You can tell I'm not really into Maya tonight. Let's see. Have you guys seen the new rigs for, I'm not even sure what they're called. Hang on. Let me grab a website here. Where are those things at? Yeah, the Mechamex. Have you guys seen these yet? They're pretty awesome. They're by this guy Josh. I forgot his last name, but yeah, they're really solid. They're really solid, and I've been having a blast with them. So one of my classes, I've started an animation with the new one, Crusher, because these aren't even the newest ones. Let's see here. Yeah, here we go. It's like this is the new ones right here too. So you've got two sets of families. They're like $12. They're like $12 for the whole set, and you can change them from human to mechs, and you can change the colors, you know. And they're pretty full service rigs for what they do. They're really solid body mechanics rigs, and enough facial controls to just kind of have some fun expression work, and you can still probably do some decent lip sync, I think, you know. But that's cool. Yeah, they're pretty fun, and I find them very accessible. And they come with an MG Picker file. You just drag into MG Picker, and they're there, and you can change between the rigs. It's pretty impressive, you know. And then it comes with a companion that you can open, and you can go through and you can customize the rig and change it up and stuff. Like I said, change the color. You can change it to beards, no beard, you know, hair, no hair. Pretty awesome. And so the yellow guy back here, Crusher, I've been playing with him a lot, and he's been super fun. So anyway, I mean, $12, you know, yeah, can't beat it. So yeah, check it out. Check it out. Cool. Here, just gonna pop that right there. So cool. Right on. Oops. Yeah, Ben, go for it, man. Speaking of Ben, how's that sequence coming? Yeah, you're welcome. Do I know him, Ben? I don't really know him, but no, I don't know him. I've been kind of talking to him a little bit through like LinkedIn and through his Discord a little bit, but yeah. So I gave him a shout out a couple days ago. I was like, hey man, great job, you know, because I know how much work it is. So yeah, I'm not surprised it took a while. Do you know how long? I'm curious, because it's easy for us to just go, oh, there's the new rigs, and we just get them, right? But you know, he's probably spent a lot of time and money on it. So you know. Cool. Oh, okay. So you're doing camera stuff. All right. Well, I can't wait to see it, you know. Yeah, I'd like to see what you're doing. So what's funny about, so Ben and Josh and I go back quite a ways actually. And then Ben, I'm going to tell your story, Ben, okay? All right, Ben, I'm going to tell your story. So Ben was in my class, 2 years ago? I think about 2 years ago. And he came in my class, and I think it was the first weekend we were doing reviews. I looked at his shot. Yeah, I'm going to tell the story, but it's great. It's a tale of hope and, you know, inspiration. So, but yes, Ben's the one with the poses. That's Ben. I've talked about you, Ben. So yeah, Ben came in my class, and he wasn't very knowledgeable in regard to animation, but he was in my advanced body mechanics class. And so I asked him how he got in my class. He told me, and I said, well, here's what I think we should do. Either you go back to my other class and go back one class to workshop 2, or maybe you stay here and we just work on poses for 11 weeks. Right. And so, yeah, he agreed. He's like, okay, I'll do it. And so he basically just did poses for like the entire workshop, right? I think we just did poses, you know. And he came back again, and we did some spline work and stuff. But I made him go back to just doing nothing but poses for quite a while, and he started getting better. And then he left the workshop, and he stayed in touch with me for, I want to say, weekly for 2 years, right? Just about. You were putting the work in. And I've never seen a guy so dedicated as Ben. So he'd reach out to me like I want to say once a week, and we would look at his work. And now you've had a few job interviews already this year, right? And so he's just on the cusp of his first role, and it's well deserved. So bravo, yeah. Yeah, he bugged the crap out of me. No, you didn't bug me, but no, it was good. And here's the thing, though. The reason why I met with you, the reason why I kept meeting with you is because you were putting the work in. Like you were just simply putting the time in. You know what I mean? So it was easy because there was no like, hey, you paid for this time and then you're just kind of going along with it and you're kind of missing a day here and there. It's like, no, you were straight, stupid, consistent for, I want to say 2 solid years, I think, so, but yeah, you were just doing work. I mean, all the time. And then COVID hit and you were like, well, I'm going to animate all the time now. And so, yeah, so kudos, man, so I just can't wait for that call. You're like, oh, I got the job, and I know you're close. You're so close. It's nuts, so yeah. Yep. Yeah, we are almost there, man. Yep. So now I'm not going to get sick of you. You're going to be like, that guy I talk about, there was Ben back in the day, So yeah, cool. I just realized I don't have a really good way of knowing who's here, like who's hanging out. I don't think. Yeah, I do. Here we go. I found it. Cool. So the herd is thinned out a little bit, looks like. Did Milani take off? Milani took off, huh? She had to go, I guess. For her, it's really late. She's on the East Coast, so cool. I do have a ton of patience. I'm okay. I'm a patient guy, so. Oh, you're still here. Okay, cool. Yeah, my participants say you're not here. That's really weird. I don't know. That's weird. Well, I'm glad you're still here. It's good. Good to see you. Cool. Awesome. So yeah, like the last time we were here for this live event, I was kind of going through and kind of blocking out a shot, and just kind of toiling away. And now what's funny is I want to do another one now, so yeah, it's good to hear from you too. In fact, Milani, did you want to, before I get started here any further too, we were going to talk earlier today, and circumstances being what they are, I never got a chance to. So I was curious if you had anything you wanted to discuss regarding where you're at or what you're working on, any little successes you're having right now, or just straight frustration, I'm curious. Inquiring minds want to know, Milani. But yeah, so I was working on this shot and I was just doing kind of a simple little block out. Nothing even probably worth writing home about, but just kind of killing some time playing with some stuff, and very non-committal. Just doing kind of like a jump back into something. And so I think I was describing a way of not how to work. I've been doing this grand experiment lately where it's like, I'm trying to find ways to, to teach students how to break away from reference. Now, can anyone here relate to that? Where you have reference and then you're just basically afraid to let go of it. And so you just keep referring to it and blocking from it. And so I've been trying to crowbar my students away from reference. And it's hard for some of them. They want to Milani knows. Milani is one of those people where Milani is still learning how to, push into the imagination a little bit, right? And so it's a really cool thing, but it can be a scary thing as well to not lean on the reference really hard, right? Oh, okay. So yeah, so actually I got really frustrated with my run cycle for Game Anim that I was trying to do, and just started doing another applied mechanic shot dancing. Okay. All right. Oh, go over the install. Okay. Yeah, I think we can go over that, Pete. It's been a minute, but yeah, let me see what we can do there. You're going to put me on the spot. Okay. So let me ask you this, Milani. What is frustrating you about the run? I'm curious, because I have an idea, but I'm curious if you used reference for that too. I don't remember if you talked about reference for that or not, you know. Oh, okay. I see. You want me to break into Maya, Milani. Yeah, don't worry about knee pops. Ignore knee pops, because I think you can micromanage a lot of your time away, just like worrying about knee pops too early on. And if you're going to be going back through and adjusting the body, right, you know, adjusting the pose, the stride, anything that's going to be adjusted is going to then introduce new pops, right? And so I would just say, get the body close in terms of knee pops, right? In terms of the stride you think you want, the height of the TY, and then how much foot roll you're applying, you know, all those things are going to dictate, you know, your knees pushing out or pulling back, right? So, yeah. So I would just be careful not getting too micromanaging about that stuff too early on, until you feel like the core movement is like rock solid and you have, you know, the weight feeling really good, right? You know, the posing feeling really good, because I'll spend a lot of time just on the upper body alone, just like really getting that looseness in the run, right? Getting that pose just right I want. And then getting the stride right in the sense that you know where the body weight is over the feet, right? Am I pushing forward, or am I kind of pushing or pulling back on my body position, right? And trying to figure those things out, and then go through then and start to tweak just where needed, like your TY, just adjusting or massaging the foot roll. Because, you know, think about it. You drop the body, roll the foot up, what happens? The knee pops out, right? Okay. Lift the body up, the knee pops back, right? So it's really important to think about, like I said, I think before, you know, as you're blocking, those poses matter, right? Where you put the body coming down into the contact pose really matters, right? If you drop the body too soon, you're going to get weirdness with the legs, right? You drop it too late, it's not going to feel right? So you have to really think about where those poses are hitting in regard to that arc, right? So that way, when you go through and you're thinking about where that midway point is, right, and where the foot rolls happening, or the foot roll downs happening as the back foot's going to push into the passing position, you know, then you're getting that arc you want right where it's supposed to be hitting, you know. So it's not easy. I mean, it's a pain in the ass. Like, runs and walks are the thing I dread the most in animation. I'll take anything on except locomotion, you know, if I can help it. They're a pain in the ass. They're the hardest thing to do, you know, in my opinion, you know. I'll do anything else. Jeez, yeah. So Pete, you're saying basically use reference to get my key poses. It's hard to make sure to get some of the principles in there too, especially the overlapping and such. Yeah, but to me, that's a conscious decision to attempt it and then to practice it, right? Because, like, hey, shit, I'll be the first one to admit, a majority of my career, I didn't think about that. I thought about key poses only. And then to me, a breakdown was just a descriptor. Like, okay, I want to put an arc there. And I would put a breakdown. I'd arc the body down through a bottom arc or an overtop arc, you know? And I wouldn't necessarily be thinking about how that mechanic was breaking down at that time, right? And so they were things that I kind of layered in afterwards, right? You know? And that's okay. I just think it took me longer to animate that way. I think it took me longer to figure out my shots that way, you know? And then when I started learning how to block the animation, to feel like follow through, to feel drag, to feel all those things happening mechanically, it's addicting. It's super addicting, you know? So I would just say, stick with trying it out, you know? And again, if you've got two solid poses that are like broad in nature, and you've got a nice opportunity for a good breakdown to like really drag something through and kind of pop it up into the next pose, that's a good practicing point to do that, right? It's a good place to start with, like, okay, well, I'm shifting my weight forward off my back foot to my front foot. Okay, so I'm probably going to have my pelvis kind of like hit and like rock up as I push the weight over that front foot. Okay, so maybe my breakdown will show that beginning of the pelvis kind of pushing up, and then the body kind of dragging behind slightly, right, as it comes through into the next pose, you know. And so you can start to make almost like conscientious decisions on where you're putting your breakdowns, because maybe you want that breakdown to favor into the next pose, or maybe you want part of it to favor in, but not all of it, right? So maybe you need 2 breakdowns, I mean, hell, sometimes I'll do a very generic ease in and an ease out, and then I'll put a breakdown somewhere in the middle to describe the mechanic, because it's very easy just to grab Tween Machine and select your whole rig and just pop like 25% in there, right? And just ease out, so yeah. Hell yeah, Pete, for sure. Wait, I thought the feeling that you're making your shot worse was normal. Okay, well, yeah, maybe initially, but no, but hopefully not, Oh, Ben, come on. So it makes sense. I just felt like I made a shot even worse. Yeah. So I hear you. So, I mean, yeah. But again, I think part of it comes down to workflow, right? Part of it comes down to experience and then ideas, right? Because I was telling another student, CJ, I was talking to him yesterday, actually, outside of class. And I was telling him, like, the way you kind of go through your shots after initial block, there can be a lot of workflows for it, right? But you have to kind of be able to visualize what you're trying to do. So if you have no idea what you want it to look like, you're probably going to struggle more, because you're going to rely heavily on Maya doing a lot of the in-betweening, and then you just kind of tweaking along the way. And you're not going to get a lot of really interesting texture in the breakdowns, I think, that way, right? And so I think it's important to at least have some kind of vision on, okay, I want him to come down through here at least. I want to shift the weight. All right, well, that's going to be kind of common sense in some ways, because I'm probably going to go from potentially a stretch pose to a squash pose to maybe a stretch pose. Or you could say neutral, squash, neutral, whatever, right? And then what does that middle pose look like in terms of, am I pushing through head first? Well, then that pose is going to lean heavily into like that next pose, right? Am I going to drag the upper body and like push the hips in? Then you pose that. But you have to have some kind of sense of what you expect it to look like, and then you can start to mold that clay, right? And to be honest too, there's nothing wrong, in my opinion, about splining that moment for a second and then going to that breakdown point in spline and just setting a key and then going back to step key and then just tweaking that breakdown. I think that's okay, because you're basically just using spline as Tween Machine at that point, right? And then just tweaking the pose on top of it. And so I think that's fine, but yeah, cycles are a pain in the butt. So I wouldn't worry too much, but it just, it's like anything else, Milani. I think if you did nothing but cycles for a year, you get pretty damn good at them, you get pretty good at cycles. But here's the thing, who does cycles anymore anyway? Tell me that. Maybe crowds teams, but even feature films, even games, video games, you don't do too much locomotion stuff. And the reason why is because it's because it's already done, like look at Destiny, right? Destiny has been around since 2014, and 2014 was when they went live with locomotion in the game, the characters running around. And it's done. So anything I build in there on top of that locomotion system is going to be on top of that locomotion system. And I'm not going to have to animate it. It's already done. Because if I change that locomotion system or update it or make a new one, the public who's been playing the game for the last 4 or 5 years is going to be super pissed at me because I changed their toy, So, yeah. Not necessarily, Listen, if I applied for a job today outside of Bungie, I wouldn't have a single run or walk. Not one. I wouldn't have one, and I wouldn't even care. I wouldn't care. I don't think it's necessary, I don't know. Because to me, what's really important, let's think about this for just a quick moment. So let's think about a demo reel for video games, and we can talk about feature film too. But if I'm no comment. What about it, Pete? The Locomotion on Titans is badass, man. No, but I think if we're talking about games, right? And I'm going to send you a game test because you're a prospective employee, right? What I want to know is, do you understand certain things beyond animation, right? Animation is important. I want to know that you can get weight in the character. I want to know that you can, I want to know that you can do gameplay animation. I want to see if you know gameplay timing, right? But it does go beyond some of the content, because I want to know if you understand gameplay enough to know that the gameplay timing is different than feature film, because it's way different. It's very different. In fact, I was telling this story to some students about how when I worked at Avalanche, I got my very first game shot, and it was Baymax from Big Hero 6. And I went to Jamie's office and I said, hey, I'm ready to do a shot. I want to do a game shot. And I wasn't a game animator, but they were really nice and they let me do some game stuff. So I said, can I do a shot? And they said, yeah, hell yeah, you can do as many as you want. And I said, cool. And I said, well, give me one. And so they sent me to Jamie's office, and Jamie said, yeah, just here's some Baymax stuff. Do a sidekick, do a karate sidekick. I was like, cool. And so he gave me, he emailed me a reference from the movie, which wasn't out yet. It had a watermark on it. And it was just, it was a scene of Baymax in the green armor, the early on armor, before it was orange. And he's like kicking that board. And then they gave me the scene file to go back and work on it. And then as I was leaving Jamie's office, he goes, hey, one more thing. He's like, just make sure the hit is on frame 13. And I was like, yeah, right on. And I just went back to my desk and I cracked open that reference and I started going through Baymax's mechanics and I was taking notes. And then I suddenly realized that I was on the weight shift back to lift the front leg to kick, and I was on frame 74. And I was like, wait a second. I think he said 13. No way. So I ran back down there and I was like, did you say frame 13? And he said, yes, 13. And I said, come again? How am I supposed to do a kick on frame 13? And so he said, okay, all right. So he's like, go back to your desk and just go open the Hulk content, the Hulk smash content we did. And that'll give you some clues on how we do it. And I said, cool. So I went back to my desk and I opened the Hulk content of him doing the Hulk smash, which was on a frame 13 hit. And I opened it and I scrubbed through and I saw what they did and I fell in love with game animation at that moment. It was like, I was like, that is awesome. And what it came down to was what you're communicating, first of all, right? How am I going to communicate a kick and gameplay timing, right? How am I going to animate it so that it has appeal and weight, but still makes the person behind this, not frustrated because they're waiting for something to happen, but it's immediate response and keeping their gameplay flowing, right? Okay. So there's an art to it. There's an art to gameplay timing and feature film timing, right? But the idea that you have to really expedite your anticipations to get into a very fast hit, and then you can spend time on the back end if the player allows for it. I can do a flourish at the back end of it if I want to. Most likely no one will ever see it though, because they're going to kick, then they're going to punch, they're going to run, they're going to jump, they're going to do all kinds of things because they're in the heat of battle, right? Okay. So how do game industries hire if you don't have any game reel? Well, ask Ben, because Ben's trying to do that right now, actually. Right, Ben? Yeah, so what Ben's been doing, for example, Ben's been working on some game stuff and he just leaned on me and I just gave him every bit of information I had in terms of if I wanted to see a game reel with no experience, maybe do these things. And so he did a couple of clips with Thor, throwing the hammer and catching the hammer. And we broke it up into a gameplay scenario. And he did a really nice job on it, I thought, And now he's doing some sequence work with kind of a video game kind of feel, but it's more mechanics driven. So it's more cinematic maybe, So, yeah. Yeah, I was going to say same thing as Pete's saying too. You'll probably break your reels up. Because here's the thing. Here's the beautiful thing, right? the way you apply for jobs now most of the time is through links anyway. And so you just have a link to your Vimeo page. And on your Vimeo page, you've got your game reel, you've got your feature film reel, you've got your creature reel. You just have all your little reels there broken up, you know. And then maybe have one file at the bottom that's just a mashup of all of it. I don't know. You call that a show reel. It's not a demo reel. Like these could all be demo reels. This could be your show reel, which is like, here's everything I've ever done. And it's like 15 minutes long, you know, whatever, you know what I mean? And that could be like your show reel for your Vimeo page. And then when you go apply to place, you basically can just pop that link to your Vimeo page in there, which is how Bungie does it. You just put a link to your reel and you just give them your page and they'll just go through it and look at your stuff, you know? Yeah, for sure. So I think it's just important to kind of break that up, I think, for sure. But I think you have to consider too who you're applying for as well, right? Because feature films is easy because all the studios animate the same way, right? It's feature film animation to a camera in a layout scene. And that's kind of it. But video games can be a first-person shooter, third-person shooter. It could be a mechanics game. It could be like, you know, World of Warcraft. It could be like a God camera game like League of Legends. It could be any number of types of game genre. And, you know, what do you do with that? And for example, like Riot is one of those companies that I feel like is really in a really weird, unique position where their gameplay is from a pretty high up camera, kind of overhead. So the characters are very foreshortened and the actions are really heavily effects. But the animations they're doing are hyper polished. That's one of the most polished game studios that I know of, right? And not just polished, but also imaginative. The stuff those guys come up with to do on their shots is like batshit crazy, some of the stuff they do. And their game tests is just as crazy as the animation. So not an easy place to get into, for sure. You know, they want gamers working there. Like you basically have to be almost obsessed with their game to work there. They want to know that you're a League of Legends player and you play the game and that you're in that world. You know, they want gamers there, you know. So yeah. Exactly, Pete. Yeah. You probably wouldn't do like a bunch of creature work and try to get into Pixar, for sure, you know. And that's why I always say, like, you know, hey, have your finger on the pulse of what you're trying to do, because then you can kind of target those establishments. If you're going to apply for Pixar, then you better be watching those movies and picking them apart and understanding what goes into making those shots, because the way they move through characters is very different than how DreamWorks does, or especially like TV work, you know. Blue Sky was like one of those more cartoony studios. So it just depends on what you're trying to do, right? But so yeah, and then like Disney's very unique in my opinion of that style. That's very borderline pushed stylized on a majority of the main characters. And then you've got all the supporting characters that are just like off the wall crazy in some cases, right? So it just depends, I think, you know, but yeah, I think you have to try to define what you're trying to do, for sure, you know. And like, I think Ben, like for you, Ben, what you're doing could be risky, right? But I think because your animation skills are coming along so well, I think you're pulling it off. But if it was risky before or iffy, I would have told you probably don't do that, you know. But I think you're doing a great job at pulling off mechanics shots, the acting shot, right? And then like the game stuff, and now like the sequence work you're doing. I think you're doing a nice job at kind of a diversified range of stuff. And they all feel somewhat different, but they're still in that bent, hem, and polished state, you know? So yeah. Right. Yeah, I think so. I think it just depends. I mean, look at me, right? I basically got into Bungie with no game experience, right? And it was because the timing was right. They were looking for someone to come in who was different. And so the timing was lucky. What can you say? You know, it wasn't planned. It wasn't even on my radar. I wasn't planning on it, even applying at Bungie. But one of their animators reached out to me because he saw something in my reel that he thought was what they needed for whatever reason. And so it worked out, you know, but yeah, life is weird that way, you know. What? Acting for animation? What is this? Huh. I don't know about this, Pete. That's good to know. Is that like basically like the book, Acting for Animators? But now they got an Instagram where you can like break down shots, slow motion. Sounds awesome. Very cool. Nice. Right. Yeah, so Milani's actually taking a class with I forgot his name already. Anim Squad. Help me out. It's not Yoni, it's I forgot his name. But anyway, she's doing like hyper acting. She's doing a straight up like 2-character acting shot basically. And so so she's also doing kind of what you're doing, Ben, where she's doing some game stuff. She's working with a feature film guy, a Pixar guy, and doing some animation with him. And so what I told her was, because there was some talk between her and I about, hey, maybe I should go back and like work on, like Monty, right. And so she was saying like, maybe I should go back and work on some of my previous shots. And my first thought was, well, I would sink into the class you're in right now and take advantage of the Pixar Animator and like absorb everything and just dig into that one shot. And then just take all that experience. And then when you're done, if you want to go back in those shots, go ahead. But I'm a big believer in moving on, right? Get what you can out of the shot, move on, because by the time you go back to it, you're better anyway. You probably would do it differently than you did it back then, right? And so it's not a bad idea to look back. In fact, you should always look back. Keep your old shots around so you have something to gauge against, so you can see your progress, right? And like look at what you came from and appreciate it, right? And then just use that to keep moving forward into the next shots and apply fresh ideas to those new lessons, you know, and just keep stacking it, you know. So that's kind of my thinking anyway, you know. So yeah. It's good. Good. I feel like I missed a question back here. No, we talked about that. But yeah, locomotion, I don't know. And in fact, the room, you guys can correct me if you think I'm wrong too, because I want to hear your guys' thoughts too, because I mean, look, from my perspective, I started as a professional, meaning I got paid for animation, right? In 2000. We're now in 2021. And I think I've done a walk in 3 shots in my whole career, maybe 4 shots, you know, one on robots with Fender pulling his skirt up and running off the edge of the conveyor belt, jumping. And then I had 2 shots in Ice Age 3 with Manny and Ellie walking and talking. I did have a running shot with Horton and Horton Here's a Who. Oh, and I had a mare shot walking. That's right, holding the goldfish bowl. So I've done some walks. Okay, I take it back, but not a lot of them. Not a lot of them, right? I mean, in 21 years, probably less than I can count on both hands, right? And so, you know. But here's the thing, though: you just figure it out. A lot of times, too, right? So I am a believer that if you know how to get weight in a character and you're decent at posing and you can move characters convincingly, fluidly with weight, then I think you can figure out how to walk a character if you have a gun to your head, you know, meaning a deadline on a production, right? I think then you'll figure it out. I think you'll just work through it through sheer fear and terror, and then you'll get it done. So, yeah. Mostly. Good stuff. Anyway, but yeah. And then So Pete, you were asking about how to install Giro. Is that what you were saying? Like go back and install the gear? God. So have you not done it yet, Pete? Have you not installed Giro through gear? I'm curious. Oh, right. Oh, Pete, that's a great question, man. Okay, we'll get to Giro in a second, but that's a great question. So what's your opinion on working in a studio during the pandemic where we may not be next to someone over the shoulder? Yeah. Yeah, it's tough, man. It's tough. It's tough for us. It's tough. So we came from a much more collaborative environment, right? So imagine, for example, the sandbox team, and I mean, when I say sandbox, I mean the team that makes the player side of the video game of Destiny, right? Not the combatants, not the NPCs, not the cinematics, not bosses, but the player. Anything player, abilities, melees, weapons, whatever, right? That's only two of us. That's me and Doug. Doug and I do all of it. And we have 2 designers, we have 2 effects artists, 1 product owner is a PO. He kind of oversees the department. And then we have a producer. And then we've got a dedicated engineer at our disposal when we need them once in a while. And then I've got 2 technical animators who are there to assist us on the technical side. And that's it. That's the entire sandbox team for Destiny. So we were used to working very collaboratively where, for example, at Bungie, you don't sit with the animation team. You sit with your discipline. And so Doug and I are the only 2 animators, and we sit with our effects artists, our designers, our producer, our technical animators. That's our team. And then cinematics sits in a different building. And then NPCs, which are non-playable characters like vendors, things like that, that animator is only one of them, and that's Tom Seville. He's in a whole different department, a different building. And then you've got bosses and combatants. They're only 4 people for the entire team, and they sit in the same building as us but somewhere else. So it's a very collaborative thing because you have to be constantly bouncing ideas off of designers and effects artists, and you have to be constantly giving them content to look at, play test, iterate on. And so, yeah, so we're always like shoulder to shoulder going over this stuff. So now we're all at home, and the best we can do is get on Teams, like do a call and then share a screen and then talk about stuff, you know? And it works pretty well. The animators themselves don't need to be babysat, really. And so we don't really need someone there to watch over us. We have a Friday review day. And that's when we show our work, every Friday. So I have all week to work on my work. And then Fridays at 4 o'clock, we show our work and we all discuss it. And it's a group sitting. We all sit together in teams and we share our screens. Our one guy shares the screens and goes over the clips, and then we watch them locally on our machines, and we just give feedback and talk about what's working, what's not working, gameplay, technical difficulties, challenges, things like that, right? But yeah, for the most part, the hard part is not having support. The hard part is not being able to powwow and collaborate and go take walks, because one of the fun things about Bungie is, hey, let's go, and everyone gets up from their chairs and we go get coffee and we just talk about the thing. And it's a great way to get out and just to kind of let ideas kind of percolate and flow, right? And so that's how a lot of work gets done, actually, is through that kind of stuff, you know. It's like communication through coffee, you know. Yeah, so great question, Ben. So I'm very torn. I see the benefits clearly of being in the studio because of the way we make content, but I want to be home because my family's home and my son's home. And so our family dynamic has changed in the last year, that we could never see coming, right? And so now I don't want to leave that. I want to keep that intact. So Bungie's working on ways that we can maybe do that. And so there's going to be probably a little bit of mix of both office and home, but I'm not sure yet. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, it's hard because I know in my heart of hearts that being in the office is better for certain things, but I'm almost not wanting to give up this either though, right? Because I like being home with my son and my wife's working and we just get to like, because even her and I will have meetings. She'll be on break and I'll be on break and we'll be talking about a work issue or something, or employees or something, or, hey, I have an idea about doing this thing. What do you think? And we'll powwow and stuff, right? We're like a team, you know? So it's tough, you know, but I think that, someone over your shoulder, I don't know, the level I'm working at right now, which means the company I'm working at, we don't really have people watching this anyway. Like my first person animator and myself, we kind of manage ourselves. So we're kind of autonomous for the most part. The only reason for me to really involve other people besides collaboration is to get a TD over to help me fix a problem, you know? So, yeah. Can I talk about polishing animation? Yeah. Working on the same shot for a long time when you're sitting alone and yep. Yeah. Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, I think Milani, I think you have to eventually do what Ben's doing. Ben has gotten really resourceful in pinging me for feedback, and also this other guy, Asher, who is a buddy of mine who Ben met through a guest speaker one workshop. And that's, I think, what you should be doing is not just rely on one person. I think you should be pinging as many people as you can have, like, help yourself be accountable for producing work, and then getting feedback on stuff as much as possible, right? And so, like, I think it's really smart what Ben's doing in terms of grabbing me once in a while, then grabbing like Asher. And then, like, a week or so ago, it was Asher and myself got into a meeting with him and we just talked about cameras and stuff. It was really cool. So I think that's one way to do it, is to, like, for example, Milani, if you could work it so that you could meet with a different person every day and you could basically have deadlines to get certain things done. And then you could have Monday with Mike or somebody, right? And then like Tuesday with Asher or whatever, you know what I mean? Like you could kind of, and maybe not every day, of course, but I think you could build a network of feedback that would help you not have such a long period of time between feedback sessions. You know what I mean? And so, yeah. Yep. Oh wait, what'd you mean, Pete? What'd I miss? Oh, for someone who's new. Oh, okay, I see. Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question because, like, I was talking to one of my coworkers today. They're hiring for cinematics right now, and they're all going to be remote people who are going to be onboarding, never having set foot in the studio, right? And so they have to learn how to do the job from their homes. And then it's going to be a lot of Teams calls, I would imagine, you know. But for you, you're talking about literally like just working. Yeah. But I mean, if you're talking from a student perspective, it really wouldn't matter though, right? Because you're still going to be isolated somewhat with your work, right? Because you're not in a studio. I'm assuming that's what you're talking about. Man, I wish we could like voice. It'd be so great. Excuse me. I'm losing my voice. Of course. But yeah, I think whatever you can do. Like, I'm a big fan in telling people, like, hey, you know, if you can't afford school and you got to withdraw out, find ways to hold yourself accountable so that you get the work done, because it's very easy just to kind of fall back into life and have a job and never see your potential or your dream, right? But if you can find ways to have to do it, right? I have to get it done by Tuesday. I have to, because I don't want to make so-and-so upset with me, right? Then I think you'll be more apt to doing it, right? That's why I give Ben a lot of credit, because Ben was in isolation and he just pushed ahead. He just did it. He's just simply did it, right? And that's the only thing I try to get across, like, truly in my classes, is like, listen, at the end of the day, I can inspire you all I can try, and give you all the tools I can give you. But if you don't do the work, you don't do the work, right? And so I think you have to at some point just roll your sleeves up and get to work, right? Because it's hard as hell. Animation is not easy, And like Milani, I think you've gotten a lot better, right? You've gotten a lot better since I've known you. And I think that your potential is like right there. I can see it, right? And I see moments of greatness. Like Milani is really good in certain situations. And like the garbage can shot I'm talking about, like that we looked at a while back, right? Like there's moments in that shot that are really good. I'm like, man. But then there's parts of it where you're just like, I just don't know what to do here. You're just not sure. And so you don't know how to reconcile the mechanics because you don't know what to do there. But then there's parts that make sense to you. And so then you just polish through it, right? So it's great. That's a good point. It's a good point, Pete. You're not kidding. But yeah, don't be afraid to step away. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I'm a believer in that too. I think you have to step away. You have to refresh your brain and your eyes. You have to reset your eyes, Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Yep. Go shot blind, right? That's for sure. That's interesting. I never heard it called shot blind, but that's like, I always call it, you become numb to the shot, right? Because I think your brain tries to smooth out the problems. And like, have you ever had like, you're play blasting and you see a pop and you keep watching it and suddenly the pop goes away. You're like, oh, I thought I saw a pop and it's not there anymore. I think your brain is like, let me just smooth that out for you. You know what I mean? Let me just make that go away because we don't want to see that, But I think you just get used to it, I always joke about how when I worked on Horton Hears a Who, I was working on this Horton shot one morning and I kept pushing the damn face around. I was like trying to get this one expression and I just kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And I was like, I can't get it. And then Jeff Gabor was like, let's go to lunch. And so I got up and went to lunch, came back an hour later and I was like, who's been at my desk working on my shot? And I got all pissed off and then I realized it was me. And I just got away from the shot. When I came back, it was like so jacked up. I had to call the lead over, the Horton lead. And I said, hey, get my face back on model. Because I can't even see it anymore. It's like, it's gone, So yeah. Yeah. Morrow, I hear you, man. I always talk about that. It's funny you say that because I'm always talking about like, hey, if you can just take an animation that's 2 poses and first of all, come up with 2 really good poses and then find different ways to animate between those 2 poses. Then what's nice about that is you get to practice fluid motion. You get to practice breakdowns through spacing. You get to practice getting to polish quickly, right? But if you're trying to do like an epic 200 frame shot every time, it's going to be like a week or 2 before you even get to like pretty solid into spline, right? And so I think you have to, sometimes just bust out a couple poses and then just, animate between them. In fact, I always show this clip right here in my classes. Shout out to whoever did this. I don't even know who did this, but it's a great example of taking 3 poses and then animating them in different ways, right? I always talk about this clip right here where it's like 1, 2, 3. And then the animator just basically did 3 different animations to get to those 3 poses. So like over the top here, then stands up. This one goes over, stands up. Right? And then the last one is he kind of jumps in the air and turns around. So same 3 poses, just different animation between them. And it wouldn't take very long to do that, right? And so I think it's a really good suggestion. I think it's a good idea what you're talking about. I absolutely agree. Yeah. Excuse me. Sorry, guys. But yeah, I think that's a great suggestion. I love that one. That's one of my favorites. And I think that kind of gets back to what I was talking to Ben about, was like, hey, let's just work on foundations and getting those poses. I know for a fact that when Ben lands that first job, he's going to be very glad he took that opportunity to just block out poses and just get used to putting a character into the world in a very, solid way, right? And so, yeah, because I think it's just, again, getting back to those foundations that allows you the freedom to put all the stuff on top of it, right? Because we always talk about, how confidence is competence, right? If you're competent, you can be confident, right? And so I think the more comfortable you are with those mechanics and all those foundational things, then it's so much easier to then throw on performance on top of it and to go start working on the face and start to break the face down in the same way you would break the body down, but just with slightly different rules, Eventually I'll get in here and I'll do a full acting shot. That's what I'm looking forward to, is doing the feature film course that's going to follow up this one. I can't wait to get into that because that's going to be super juicy, so it's going to be a lot of fun. But yeah. Yep, absolutely, Ben. I totally agree. Yeah. Well, I'm going to probably wrap up here right around 10. So, I'll say maybe a few more minutes here. I'm going to let you guys have some more questions and then we'll duck out. And that just turned into a Q&A discussion. So that was fun though. Yeah, short stuff's good. That's cool. Yeah, because I think you're right too, Milani, because it's you can, like Mara was saying, you can just get in there, and I think you can take a bite-sized piece of animation and take it really far very quickly, and you can have all that enthusiasm into it, right? And then move on, Definitely. Okay, yeah. Go ahead, Josh. Go for it. You want to do it now? Yeah. Send it. Let's do it. I want to see it. All right. Man, Moro, you're talking my language because it's so true, because I always talk about how those are exercises, not demo reel shots. I totally agree. Yeah, absolutely. Because you can get everything you want out of it and just move on. You can just kick it on down the hill, right? And do a new one. And then as you get very comfortable with that familiarity with the spline between the two shots and the breakdowns and how you start to develop a workflow for just managing spline shots, then you start just applying that to all your work, right? So yeah, for sure. Hell yeah. No. Did you send it to me recently? You talking to me, Pete? Who are you talking to? You talking to me? When did you send me an email? In fact, let me ask you this. What email did you send it to? Here, let me check my phone email and then I'll know where to go. Okay. Hang on one second. Cool. Yeah, I'm curious. Pete, man, you people talking about my Gmail account. I got 5. I got 5 Gmail accounts. Yeah, hang on. Did you send this tonight, today, in the past? When did you send this? Oh, okay. Here we go. Okay. When though? Yeah, I got 5 Gmail accounts. Well, it's because 2 of them are part of my side business. A couple others are just one's from the past. One's a spam account, and then one's my current account. So let's see here. Oh, there it goes. It just came. Yeah, it just got here. Thanks. Cool. Let's see what we got. So we got some oh, I know the shot. Is this the shot you wanted to look at? The flounder. Cool. Yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah, I have a spam account just for like when I like applying for something, I just use that account because they just spam it with like crap and I'm like, I don't care, you know. All right, cool. So you want feedback on this? What do you want? What does Pete want? Yeah? Cool. 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 Yeah. All right. So thanks, Josh. Yeah, I think for the starting pose here, I would almost like to see him go into like the, hey, you know, like, because I assume he's getting someone to just like, hey, this? Okay. And he picks up the fish or goes to pick it up, right? So I almost wish we got to see a little more of the like, hey, you know, like, hi, or some kind of move into the, you know, this, right? Okay, kind of thing, you know. That way it's not just kind of pose to pose, right? But that being said, this is okay. You know, I think you can still make this work just fine, right? It's just kind of one of those things where I would be kind of thinking about that, you know. One thing I'd say here in this pose is I would think about, could I push the pose in a direction more that has some kind of shape to it? Maybe. Knowing that I'm going to come back to this pose here, which you've got kind of a nice thing happening here. I like that you've got kind of this kind of shape happening here now, right? And so this has got like a nice line up here, kind of comes out this way, right? So I like what you're doing there for the most part, right? So that being said, this pose here, I would think about a couple of options maybe just to kind of push the pose. One, maybe I go more like this way, you know, kind of thing, right? Now, of course, I'm going to overdraw this, of course, just so you know. You'll have to take me with a grain of salt here because I'm going to make a point, but just like thinking about like this kind of idea here where I can push these kind of shapes, right? And so maybe I can lean into a line of action that kind of, again, flows somewhere, you know? And then that way I can kind of come up here maybe a little bit bigger. I don't know, you know? Okay, so maybe pushing that idea a little bit more screen left possibly to then come back here, you know? Just to give me that kind of contrast maybe, you know, because this pose here currently it's a little, you've got some lean here, right? But for the most part, this is kind of straight across, you know, well, not quite that much, but more like here. So just something I would think about right there, possibly, right? I'm not a huge fan of the isolated arm coming up here, right? Because what I want to really feel right there is here. I want to see him just get to this pose here, you know? So what I'd rather see you do there is like this. I'd rather see you like, hey, like this. I'd rather have him actually look down at the fish and look back up, or look down at it and then go into the movement, you know? So instead of having him just drift over and then say this, but still looking at the person, I'd almost rather him like look down at the fish and go this, because then he can look back up at the guy or whoever, the customer or whatever, the boss, whatever, right? And so he's like, hey, that, right? And that way you can get like that kind of broken up action, and it becomes more about me connecting to, oh, this, we're looking at this thing here, and he's talking to someone over there, right? And then he like takes action on going to pick it up. And then right here, I would love to see you just simplify this right here. Right now, you're kind of going from this pose to kind of straight up again, and then you're coming back here, and then coming down. So this is kind of your anticipation right here. You're anticipating right around frame 47, right? Cool. So then what I'd rather see you do is like go from like this, okay, and then like almost like anticipate down, up, and then come down, right? And so, or not even anticipate, just arc into the up for the anticipation up here. So I think you could do both, right? Maybe it'd be easier just to go straight into up and then down to pick it up. That way you're not going down, up, down again. And so what you could do is you could just cut out this middle part here in terms of the rotation Z, and maybe start to blend across the Z and the X, right? So that you're kind of coming across and up, right? And so then you can get a little bit of torque if you wanted to, because you have to find a way to get over there, right? Which makes sense, right? So maybe you would do it through a rotation on the upper body or something. So that way I could be like this, and I could kind of maybe go up and then come back here and then like go down and pick it up. So I would just find a vehicle that would help me get up there and simplify the action overall, right? Cool. And then I like what you're doing here. I love the fact that you're kind of starting to like lean in and then have the arms still coming up. That's cool. So that's a nice little bit of opposing force right there, where you're kind of going to almost, it's kind of anticipation, it's kind of squash, right? But it's more or less like a leads and follows. So it's kind of a bunch of mechanics mixed in together, right? But it's an overlapping shape, and I like that. So I like what you're doing there. I would say, however, that maybe you're bringing this hand up a little prematurely there, because now it's kind of locked there, right? So now that hand's just kind of there, and maybe you could just drag it a little bit longer, kind of thing, just kind of hold back, because I'm a huge fan of hand poses. If you ask any of my students who have been in my classes before, I'm always like bitching about like, hey, pose that hand, because that hand looks like an IHOP pancake. It's flat, And so I would think about that, right? Because like even here you could potentially have a little bit more curve here still on this back end, and then have this one just out like you have it, and just have it kind of broken up, and then maybe the thumb is fine where it's at, because it's easier to keep it in the silhouette than try to break it. So it's probably fine where it's at. But then maybe this one here is like the same thing. Maybe it's like one finger's like out a little bit. Then maybe these are just a little bit curved still. Just ways to break it up, kind of basically, Yeah. So you can also break the timing of the posing some poses, but having the arms reaching the pose at different times, for sure. Yeah. And I hope I'm making that point actually, because you want to break it up, right? You don't want the pose to necessarily be the destination. It can though, but what's important in that case is if you're going from like pose 1, right, to pose 2, then you have to have the core doing one thing, and then you have to have, again, those breakdowns are important for creating that interesting path to get there, right? It's no different than standing up, right? When you stand up, you don't want the TY to get there and then rotate the body up on top of it, right? We still got to get there at the same time, roughly. But on the way there, we're going to create all kinds of overlapping shapes and drag. So you're going to drag one arm up, and one arm's going to come up later, and then the body's going to get up there, and you're going to overshoot it and then come back, right? And so we push through the walls with overlapping shapes and follow through, but we still have to get from pose 1 to pose 2, right? And so those breakdowns are a huge part of how we create that sense of breakup in the action, for sure, Yeah. Cool. And then I would say here, I would love to see you just kind of come down like, right? Like just a little bit more like body almost come down and like sticks the arms in, like body, boom, and the arms just kind of stick in underneath and like grab it, right? To go pick it up, Because right now it feels a little soft in regard to, if I just kind of track your spacing through here, it feels a little even. And I think you could get a little more interesting texture there with the spacing overall, You know what I mean? And so why not just get a bigger spacing initially, and then maybe like settle in and kind of overshoot, maybe back a little bit, and then have these arms, just coming in like shovels, right? They're just kind of like just slightly delayed, and then they're just like you know, one of those claws at a construction site, right? Like, boom, right? You know what I mean? So, and then right here, once you get down here, this is where I want to feel that follow through, right? I want to feel that, like that, right? And right now he's just kind of going, and he just kind of holds, you know? And so that's where I want to feel like that kind of, here we go, right? He just gets down there and kind of like, right? You know what I mean? You know that, how's that for a note? Write down, he said, all right. And then you don't want to be down here too long while we're waiting for something to happen, right? And so we want to choose our beats carefully. And so I think you need to get in there. And so maybe you do a small, like, come down fish, and then maybe do a small down to anticipate picking it up. So it's almost like a one down, and then the fish like goes nuts, right? And so just as you're going down for a small anticipation, the fish just starts like bouncing and like smacks him in the face, right? And then what I want to feel here is when he gets hit here, he still kind of sticks in there. He's like, okay. And then he's like, I guess I'll stand up now. And then he goes, ay, right? Kind of thing, you know? And so I'd almost rather see him like go like smack, oh. And he just stands up. He's like, forget that kind of thing, you know? And I feel like he kind of stays in the pocket maybe a little bit longer than I would. Or at least I'd want him to, because here's the thing, right? As a viewer, I think what I want to feel is that bounce down here, right? Kind of settles. This thing hits him in the face and he goes bonk, 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 bonk. And he stands up out of that kind of thing, right? So it's almost like, you know, that kind of thing, you know? So that's just kind of the way I would think about it, you know? Me anyway. That's how I might think about it. Because, I mean, this reaction here just feels like it's a little bit late after the fact, because he just kind of, he took it, right? He's like, oh. And he's like, Right? Then he's like, I think I'm done here. And you could have had him kind of go, oh, you know? But this is more like, ay, kind of thing, you know? And so I would just make sure you're clear what you're trying to communicate there as well, you know? Especially being pantomime and all, you know? And then I think just resolving the mechanics here as well. So one thing, gesture aside, I would say the way you're resolving the weight coming up here, if I watch again the core movement, right? If I just watch this core movement coming up here on the crotch area, it just kind of peters out right there. See that? It just kind of stops, and then he kind of drifts forward a little bit there. But I think that as he comes up here, this is a good opportunity for you to overlap that a little bit, like him. He's like, oh, up and then kind of back down, right? You know, and so you could take advantage of that moment of like up, like, oh man. So he can kind of overshoot his stand up and then kind of settle into a still up position, but maybe slightly just kind of like not really too hunched over, but just kind of I don't know, slightly hunched, slightly hunched over, you know, because I can see a world where these legs lock out for the most part, and he comes up here, you know, and he's like slightly up here still, and the hand's coming up here at this point, you know, and then he comes back down and settles into more of this forward pose here, you know, where he's then kind of relaxed. And you could, again, I would also ask yourself why we have so much bend here and less here as well. That's kind of important to think about too. And so you might want to think about pushing him asymmetrically one side a little bit, and then maybe get some pelvis in there as well, up tiny bit. And then just, again, like we talked about earlier, just like that contapasto, right? Just kind of getting, you know, for me, I could see him definitely favoring one side here. Well, that's too much, but like I like the idea of like this arm kind of being out here more, possibly, right? And then this is like maybe down a little bit more. So slightly, I don't know. Just to kind of push that pose, right? Just again, trying to get like these kind of through lines here. And then maybe we're just like pushing the pose a little bit more here. Possibly. A little bit. Nothing too crazy, right? You know? Cool, but I think above all, I think just keeping your ideas very crispy clean, right? And just like, what am I communicating? And then finding clean ways to get from idea to idea, and then introducing secondary, good breakdowns, you know. Bouncing ball moment's always fun, you know? So, yeah. But that's where I'd kind of get a starting point, at least for some of the stuff. But I think there's definitely potential here, for sure. I think you've got a lot of good stuff happening here, for sure. You know, it's not garbage at all, Pete. so kudos. But yeah, it's pretty cool. I think what helps too, well, at least what helps me anyway, is I love characters that give me something to work with too, right? And so I like the fact that we have this kind of shape here to kind of work with, right? So you end up with like these kind of like cool kind of shapes to play with, right? You know? And you can kind of play with those ideas for just posing. And they just give you something kind of tangible to work with in terms of shape, right? You know? So I always like that kind of thing, you know? And I find certain characters like Marty, for example, iAnimate's character, who's just kind of like this, you know? Big hair on top, you know? He's just like, he's like really thin, you know? And he's got like these big feet, you know? You know what I mean? So anyway, it's tough. It's definitely tough. So yeah. I should get out of here soon because I hear my son. He's going to want to go to bed soon, and I bet he's like, I want my daddy. Okay, Josh, real quick. Let's do it. Let's do it. All right. Let's see. I think it's this one right here. Here we go. Hey, Pete, are you good for now? Sorry, I was so rude. I didn't say, are you good to go? You're welcome. Awesome. Cool. Okay. We'll look at it again too. Looking forward to seeing more of that. So we got more ships. Oh, we're gonna light speed in. Cool. Cool. Yeah, it feels better. It's pretty cool. I still see it pop a little bit, and it could be my playback. I'm trying to discern whether it's my playback or if it's just in the spacing is like kind of kicks in right there. Boom, right there. I can see it. Oop, I don't know. It might be the playback too, I think, you know. All right, Ben. Cheers, buddy. Thanks for hanging out, man. Good stuff. Cool. Right. I see the Star Destroyer for sure. Yeah, I would just look at that transition point because I think I like where you're going. I like how they split by the camera and the one that comes in the bottom. That's really cool. And I do like the idea of kind of like that initial like past camera, then like just see them kind of just getting smaller in the distance, and then like you see that turn kick in when they just, you know, you get that profile down towards where they're going. Very Return to the Jedi. Yeah, it's cool. But again, sometimes it doesn't bother me. Sometimes I feel like I see a pop. And so again, I'm just like, am I really seeing it? Or is it the player? Like what, you know? cool though. I wonder if there's a way to get the TIE fighters to feel bigger, like coming back by camera. I'm not sure, because I mean, I don't know if you want to like mess with that distance or not, but you know, to kind of Morrow's point earlier with the Star Destroyer, I feel like almost the same way with the TIE fighters as they come by. I almost want them to like buzz me, you know, as they come by, you know. Now, I gotta admit, I'm not. Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I'm trying to think of how much TIE fighters like really bank and stuff. I think they bank for sure, but yeah, maybe. But I was gonna say I'm not a huge fan of the Star Destroyer like boop, coming in so harshly, because if you watch them come out of hyperspace, right, they're just like and they're just like already like just cruising, right? And this one feels like it's kind of like going, like it's kind of stopping, right? And so I would just massage that, I think, because even with this quick movement coming in, it's pretty broad spacing, pretty even spacing until like right in there. So when I worked on the Infinity stuff with the Star Destroyers coming in over Mike Wazowski and Buzz Lightyear of all characters, we had him just like appear and then just I gave him a linear drift after this. It was like off and it was like and they just kind of drifted, you know, at an even pace, and it seemed to be a pretty good effect, you know. So something maybe to think about, you know. But cool. Yeah, man, keep at it. Good stuff. Good stuff. Cool. Well, I think I'm going to wrap up, guys and gal. I think Milani's still here. All right. Well, we'll do more next time. So we'll do this. We'll do one of these every month. And then awesome having everybody here. I really appreciate you guys just hanging out and spending some time and getting to know everybody. So thank you very much. That was a lot of fun, actually. So let's do it again. And if you have any questions, reach out to me. And then Pete, I will definitely set up a Discord tomorrow, and then make sure an email goes out to the whole course to let everyone know that that's there. And then we can meet up from time to time, drop stuff in there, and people can get to know each other and yeah, build that community. It's really cool. Very cool. All right. Thanks for coming out, you guys. I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. All right. Have a great night, and I will see you guys soon. And I'll hear from you guys soon, hopefully. All right. Have a great night, guys. All right. Take care. All right. Bye.